TV. Today we're going to be constructing a 3D castle for Fairy Tale Week this week because we're looking at 3D objects in math. So before we start constructing our castle, I thought we'd take a look at some of those objects and some of their properties. All right, so let's take a look first at, let's say, this 3D object right here. This is called a cylinder. And a cylinder is distinctive because it has two flat faces. So this is flat and this is flat. And the flat faces are in the shape of a circle. And then they also have a round face right here. Okay? So because it has a round face, it can actually roll. So the round face can roll, and these flat faces, they cannot roll, but they can slide like that. This object has no vertices at all, so it has no corners, no vertices, and so that is called a cylinder. Now, the 3D objects we find at home today probably won't be the mathematically perfect 3D objects, but they're going to be approximations. They'll be close enough. So this cylinder has some sort of divots here, and it has sort of a bumpy part that comes out here. That's not exactly what we mean when we say cylinder in math, but this is, the closest thing to a cylinder that I have at home. We'll call this a cylinder. That's perfect. Some other examples of cylinders I've got would be these other cans here. I've also got some blocks like this, and even this big one here, it has the round face and the two circular flat faces, so this is also a cylinder. All right, let's look at our next object now. Next, I'd like us to take a look at another 3D object that has a round face, but it has no flat faces. This object is called a sphere, and it looks like a lot like balls you might play with, you might eat, called a sphere. This is a sphere. So a sphere has a point in the middle, right in the middle, I can't touch it, but right in the middle of this, then all the different points on this sphere are exactly the same distance from the middle as the other points. So this is perfectly round. It is a sphere. And because it has a round face, we of course can roll it because it's round, okay? Here's another example of a sphere. This one's not quite as perfect but again, that's good enough for today. We will call that a sphere. Next, I'd like us to take a look at a 3D object that has a round face. This is called a cone. And my cone here, this part is a bit extra. This is not actually what we normally would see with the cone. That's extra because I'm using a pylon. But it has this round face. And what's special about a coin is it has a vertex. It has this one point here, a vertex. And then it has a flat face right here. Okay, so because it has a round face, it can roll on that round face, and then on the flat face, it could slide. All right, so that's called a cone. You might have some trouble today finding a cone in your house. This one was the hardest 3D object that I could find in my house. You might have something like a party hat, or you might have ice cream cones that are shaped like a cone, or you might be able to make one out of paper. So you can try to find one, but it might be a bit trickier today when you're building your castle. Next, let's look at a 3D object that does not have any round faces. This one here is a cube, and a cube is special because all of its faces are perfect squares. So you can look at all the faces of my cube here. They're all squares, which means that all the edges of my cube are the exact same length. So a cube has flat faces, it has these vertices, and you can slide it because it has the flat faces. Another example of a cube would be this big one here. Again, all the faces are squares, and they're all the exact same size. Lastly, I'd like us to take a look at rectangular prisms. So rectangular prisms could include a cube, but this one here is not a cube because the length of this edge is different length of this edge here. But this is a rectangular prism, so that means all the faces are flat. And we could even analyze this a bit. So this has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 edges. So these are the edges. Let's count the faces on this rectangular prism. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 faces. And let's count the vertices. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 vertices. Okay, so that's a rectangular prism. Other things that could be called a rectangular prism, even though this is really shallow, this is also a rectangular prism. So there's another one. And then we can look at a big example of a rectangular prism. This box here is also a rectangular prism. So before you build your castle, you'll need to go around your house and look for different 3D objects that you can use to build your castle, collect those, try to make sure there's a good variety so you have almost all or all of the 3D objects we talked about, and then you're ready to build your castle. Ta-da! All right, there's my castle. So now I'd like you to go through and take a look at the worksheet and count how many of the different objects you have, and then I'll ask you to fill out a bit of information about how many vertices, edges, faces those different 3D objects have. And then make sure to take a picture of your castle so I can see it. Good job building, grade 2s. Bye!